to American families. It's about showing the American and the American people that democracy still works in America, notwithstanding all the talk of its demise. Not just for the privileged few, but for all of us. You know, I swore an oath of office to you and to God to faithfully execute the duties of this sacred office. To me, the critical duty of the president is to defend what is best about America. And that's not hyperbole. Defend what's best about America, to pursue justice, to ensure fairness, deliver results.
Unfortunately for millions of people who are benefiting from this program, it expired in December. Now, Senators Sherrod Brown and Michael Bennet, two of the strongest advocates for the child tax credit, rose in opposition to Bernie Sanders' amendment, not because they didn't like it, but because its adoption would have jeopardized the cheaper prescription and billions of dollars more for green energy promised by the Inflation Reduction Act. The expanded child tax credit the Democrats created in 2021 paid parents as much as $300 per child. For 6 months, the credit dramatically reduced child poverty, a taste of the kind of child allowance that for decades has been a standard part of the welfare state in other rich countries. Now, the IRS has announced, everybody, that Americans may have to wait a bit longer before they are going to receive the extra stimulus checks. Several governors and state leaders are continuing to push for new legislation that would only establish new stimulus programs for people. This would include bonus check for many residents, and also the IRS. This service may be part of the IRS official name, but the tax agency has been lacking this area over the past couple of years. This is because of the crisis and lots of stimulus-related law changes passed by Congress for the IRS to administer. The good news is the IRS made progress on its processing of returns, in part because it went on a hiring spree and shifted current personnel from other areas to assist with the backlog. As of this summer, the IRS finished processing all individual returns that it received in 2021 and had no errors, including 2020 e-filed and paper forms. Now, the bad news is the IRS still has a backlog of millions of unprocessed 2021 returns that are filed this year, the vast majority of which are paper file returns. As of July 29th, it had 10.2 million unprocessed individual returns for 2021. Of these, 1.8 million returns require special handling, such as error connection.
Many of the qualified applicants who began their EIDL application process prior to the May 6th deadline. So I think that we have to restore trust.
A big update on President Biden's fourth stimulus package, everybody. Joe Manchin has announced his new agreement with Chuck Schumer, and progressive lawmakers have proposed mailing inflation to relief checks. Now, these checks may be sent out to low-income households, Social Security beneficiaries, and even families. You want to be sure to stay until the end of the video to know if you can receive the latest stimulus check from President Biden. Congress is planning on taking big action this week, as they are now in session, and Joe Manchin of West Virginia is already holding meetings with other lawmakers to finally close a deal. According to NBC News, alongside Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Joe Manchin held a meeting on climate initiatives. This was an effort to see whether a bipartisan deal can be cut with Republicans. Manchin has told reporters, "If I can find something bipartisan, we don't need reconciliation." Democrats have been using for over a year, allowing them to bypass the 60-vote threshold to end a potential filibuster. He later added that one area of shared interest could be overhauling the federal oil and gas leasing program. It's urgent to find out if there's a pathway, he said. If there's any way, then we can find a pathway in a bipartisan way. Now, a spokesperson for Manchin said the meeting was an effort to gauge bipartisan interest in a path forward that addresses our nation's climate and energy security heads-on. The progressive lawmakers are also trying to come up with an agreement with Manchin. House Representative Ro Khanna said in a statement that passing a bold bill is his highest priority, and he was pleased to participate with colleagues on finding a way forward. Joe Manchin has voiced support in recent months for a package centered on clean energy spending, cutting prescription prices, and rolling back the 2017 Republican tax cuts. Democrats hope to cut a deal with Manchin on the bill as soon as possible. Some of the Democratic Party are pushing to strike an agreement on their priorities by Memorial Day. Inflation has been rising at a clip not seen in 4 decades, pushing up prices on just about everything and eating into household finances. To help residents grappling with the increased cost as a result of crisis-driven inflation, the Maine legislature passed a budget that included relief checks for Mainers. An estimated 850,000 residents will be eligible for the extra cash to help cover the increased cost of things, ranging from higher energy costs to increased prices for everyday goods. Governor Janet Mills proposed proposal was passed overwhelmingly by the state legislature, which will return half of the budget surplus to the taxpayers for a total of $729.3 million. Unlike last year's relief program, which was a thank you to Mainers who worked during the early days of the crisis, there is no wage requirement this time around. The state expects to send out checks to approximately 333,000 more residents through this program. Only full-time Maine residents that file a 2021 Maine individual income tax return and meet the income threshold will receive the $850 inflation relief checks. Although the tax filing deadline has passed, Mainers can still submit a tax return to access the boost to their finances. However, they only have until October 31st, 2022. Also, those eligible must not be claimed. Borrowers could see the loan cancellation reflected on their accounts within 6 weeks. The relief payment will be limited to borrowers who make less than $125,000 a year, or married couples or head of households earning less than $250,000 a year. Their education department is also considering people's so-called adjusted gross income, which will affect how you will receive your stimulus payment. So where people can also be getting many stimulus checks, everybody, this year. So if you want to be sure to get more stimulus payments, then be sure to continue watching this video. A lot of developments are being made about the fourth stimulus payment, Social Security benefits, Ssdi and Ssdi. You guys have to continue watching this video because there's finally a big news on the update of around fourth stimulus checks. And Congress has actually decided to move forward with a new plan. There's a lot of good news, everybody, about this, but $350 stimulus payments may be automatically deposited for low-income households. And that's not all. If you receive monthly benefit checks, you may also qualify for this relief payment. So, just continue watching this video, everybody, to stay tuned on the latest stimulus news that you don't want to miss out on. Parents are having a hard time making ends meet after the end of the monthly child tax credit payments. So according to a new survey, the survey found that nearly 80% of eligible families received the child tax credit payments, and those extra funds went primarily to paying those and for necessities. This new data is a stark reminder that child tax credit helped keep families afloat, and that its end is actually help families many deeply. And the child tax credit payments are part of a monthly payment by eligible families from July to December 2021. And the program, which made the tax credit fully refundable, expanded the tax credit from $2,000 to $3,600 per kid. Now, these are resounding success and help families afford necessities and pay so many bills. But the Senate has actually failed to pass an extension on this monthly payment, despite positive feedback from families on both sides of the aisle. Joe Manchin, for instance, is credited with poleaxing the extension in a blow to the Biden administration's Build Back Better Act, which would have extended it for monthly payments, everybody. And so, previous research credited the monthly child tax credit payment with lifting 4 million people out of poverty, slashing hunger rates, and even helping the upper middle class families pay for necessities. Now, though, Republican Senator Mitt Romney is proposing a monthly package. Now, this Romney's proposal is called the BILLS Act. It's called the Family Securities Act, and the bill will seek